Good day everyone. This video is a quick overview of the new Stratus sizing tool for AVEVA specific software applications. The tool was compiled with the help of AVEVA to guide the customer or SI selecting the correct Stratus product according to the application resource requirement. On opening the sizing tool, you will find the main page from where you can navigate to the different tabs within the sizing tool. On the main page, you will find the following buttons: the ZTC sizing tool, the FT server sizing tool, the server resource guideline, and lastly the reference link to Stratus and AVEVA products. A good place to start within the tool is the resource guideline tab. This tab outlines the different AVEVA products with recommended resource guidelines for virtualized solutions, as well as important notes which can guide you in your selection. These guidelines is incorporated in both the ZTC and FT server tool as an easy drop-down selection. So once you have an idea which Stratus product you would like for your application, you can then from the main page or the individual tabs go to either the ZTC or FT server sizing tool. Let's have a look at the ZTC sizing tool. If you are not familiar or comfortable with AVEVA applications or virtualization, we recommend that you leave the default tick mark in the Use AVEVA Defined Resources column. This will then automatically fill in the recommended resources on virtual CPU, memory and vDisk for you, according to the resource guideline sheet. You can also opt to select the cross, and that will override the existing values. Next is to select the AVEVA application you require from the drop-down list in the Application Function column. You will notice later on that this list is not the same as the FT server list, and this is because of some application requiring more virtual resources, which is above the ZTC specification. On the next column, you need to select if you require HA for high availability, FT for fault tolerant, or single if you only require a single node ZTC. In the OS required column, you can also select the operating system type for your application. You will notice that there is only a VM1 to VM4 option to fill in, as this is the guideline from Stratus on the amount of virtual machines that can run on a ZTC to get the most out of the ZTC hardware resources. So after making your selection in VM1 to 4, the tool will auto-calculate the total resource requirement with system overhead for you and then select a ZTC model accordingly. If the resources of the application selected with the system overhead is more than what the ZTC maximum limits are, it will inform you with a red flag that you require a selection of an FT server. Here you will notice the flag. In the ZTC list, you can also do a manual entry if your application does not appear in the drop-down list. In this regard, you have to manually enter the data. Under the ZTC support level selected, you need to select which support level suits your application. Lastly, you can fill in the project information and save the workbook and send it to your local Stratus sales representative in order to assist you and provide you with a valid quote. Now finally, let's look at the FD Server tool. On the top half of the tool, there are configuration options that need to be completed first. Let's review them. The first option is, do you require a VMware vSphere license? Yes or no? Then, if so, what type of VMware license do you require? The next option is, do we need to include Windows Server licenses? Also yes or no. There is also an option for if the customer is in possession of volume licenses, then you would select volume or OEM if Stratus needs to provide the licenses. You would notice that if we select yes for the Windows licenses, then you have to go and select the amount of Windows CALs you require. There is pre-selections already defined. And if you also require remote desktop CALs, then you can also enter a value there. The next option is to select the network connectivity. There is options for 1 gig if you require more 1 gig cards. There's also options for 10 gig copper and 10 gig fiber if you require those. Then under the phone home options, you can select between internet, dial-up or none. And then if Stratus needs to provide you with a rack enclosure, you can then opt to say no or yes and which size of rack enclosure you require. And then lastly, under the configuration, look at the support level selected. There is 3 options to select from. If you do not know what it entitles, then you can also click on the blue ticks, and that will take you to our resource page, which gives you a much more deeper explanation of the support levels. The same procedure applies as with the ZTC tool, where you need to select the required AVEVA application. The only difference is that because of the extensive list on the FD server side, there is a main group selection that needs to be done first, and then according to the main group selection, there will be then a subgroup that the application can be chosen from. Here you can notice that it will only give you the AVEVA Plant SCADA selection because you have selected the main group AVEVA Plant SCADA. And then under the operating system version, you can also then enter what OS version you require for your application. Once again, the default values are applied, but if you are familiar with AVEVA software, you can override them by selecting the cross and entering your own details. And this you can do for all your application selections. If you have an application that is not in the list or a custom selection, then there is at the bottom of the screen you can select 2 gray columns where you can enter your own details of your own virtual machine. And for this you need to then enter your own details, which will then be part of the calculation. Once you have done all your selection, the calculation gets done. There is also a percentage for allowance for growth, which you can change. Once all this is done, it will then, right at the top in the green part of the tool, will then specify what FD server model you require for your application selection. Once you have done your application selection, you can again enter the project information at the bottom, send it to your relative local sales representative for Stratus, which can assist you and also provide you then with a formal quote. This concludes the overview of the Stratus AVEVA sizing tool. Thank you for taking a quick tour through it and hope this will be of value for you.